Hello there, commanders, and welcome back to National Cup as we are in potentially the last battle of the tournament, as Russia leads 2-0 over Ukraine, as Ukraine will try to find the first victory against Russians on Salernum. They have gotten quite close a few times. Last time definitely wasn't close. They have been handed a very convincing loss by the Russians. But let's see what both teams are up to in this battle. Looks like both teams are actually heavily committing to the hill. Russians sending the repeating crosses over there. Volksmen cavalry from both teams rushing the watchtower. The Russian team was slightly faster, but now they're going to drop it. Awful perseverance is being used to prevent any routes, but the charges were slightly won by the Russian side, and there Volksmen are getting close, but the Ukrainians are already getting support from their archers, but holding that watchtower is going to be crucial and provide a huge advantage in the area for the Russians, as long as they can hold onto it, but looks like they will do that. They have archers here as well, plus repeating crossbows versus only the archers of the Ukrainian team, and the infantry and cavalry forces look roughly equal. Well, the Russians may have committed just a little bit more, as more and more units are pouring down from below, emerging from the tall grass area in the city. In the meantime, looks like Russians have only left 4 units over here. The pikes are already being cut down by the Ukrainian repeating crossbows and also getting piked from below to just add insult to injury, remove that unit a little bit faster, if that even really mattered at all. Then it could have already made its way towards the A. There will be some backup attempt over here, but it's obviously going to fail as the Ukrainians already feel confident enough to leave. They see the unit coming, so decide against it. The watchtower is now being held by Ukrainians over here as well, as they pushed out the Russians ever so slightly, but that means they're stretching out their lines. And oof, almost their archers being caught off guard by the Russian infantry, the spearmen. They are flanked from 2 sides, but that is not enough. There we go. Now surprising flank plus Warcry makes sure they rout. Also very nice blocking over there. Although, ooh, that charge went through nonetheless. Very powerful charge, disrupting the Ukrainian formation, disrupting the Ukrainian archers, allowing the Russian archers, if they so choose, to push forward and capitalize on that. But instead, they prefer to finish off the cavalry. They failed to do that though, but it charges now in the middle of a big fight, and as there's only 1 soldier alive, is very vulnerable, but he'll make it out alive and will be able to heal. But Russians control the hill pretty much entirely. They just have so many units over here. Ukrainians obviously have a lot more units over here in the city, so they are going to try to trade A for E. We'll see who gets what faster, as that will most likely determine the fight for C. Although the Russians, since they have such a huge advantage over here, they are already sending their units to C. That has been unlocked just now. Ukrainians can't really afford that luxury from their city forces, as they are mostly tied down over here and reliant on the repeating crossbows that obviously cannot go out on their own. So C is going to be slowly captured by the Russian cavalry, but not until the Ukrainian cavalry has to say something about it. The capture is going to go through very slowly. That's only 1 unit, and E is already being overwhelmed by the Russian forces as well. The healing zone is being disrupted. The Russian cavalry provides vision for the archers, and the archers are able to consistently deny healing over there. A already being lost. C almost captured, and the cavalry charge out in time. It will charge out, but it will also cancel the capture. So a little bit of a mistake over there by the Russian team, as they did have 2 units in the area. I think would have played that better, but they're still largely in control of C. A is going to be captured ahead of E. E is still contested, but only 1 last unit alive over there. There we go. As it goes down, E is going to be captured very quickly. The Ukrainians did manage to spawn back triple units of spearmen, but archers did not manage to heal up themselves, as they were forced to run away. Well, 2 units did heal up, so they will be able to maybe put up some pressure over here on E, preventing the Russians from sending in reinforcements to C. The cavalry from the Ukrainians now tries to make it to C. Can it make it? This is mostly being held back, and C is going to go through. Is it going, or is the Ukraine going to contest? The unit teleports last second inside the point, but It is routed despite being in Oath of Perseverance. All the morale debuffs stacked on top of one another made sure that the unit routes, and C is secured for the Russians. So now the first phase of the battle is over, 5 minutes in. Both teams will be looking to change the status quo, though the Russians are definitely confident in just staying with things as they are right now, as they control 3 points to just 2 of Ukrainians. And as Ukrainians died, they still had most of their forces on top of the hill, and despite that they lost because, well, the Russians just outnumbered them. They literally put pretty much everything on top of the hill. So Ukrainians decided to spawn back at their base and try to push E back rather than get C, which again sort of the repeat of the previous battle on Marathon. And also very similar situations that we saw during War Games Institute tournament. Also played on tier 6, also 10v10 or 9v9 occasionally for the finals. So a lot of similarities can be drawn, a lot of comparisons as well, which I think will be a very good educational journey for you if you decide to watch all of that and draw your own conclusions. Or well, maybe with my commentary you'll be able to share some of my own, as I do share my thoughts about that as well. But anyway, Ukrainians are pushing forward now that they have finally caught up, and the Russian defending positions look very, very good. Again, I have the healing zone over here. Ukrainians are sending 1 unit of glaives out of all units. Why not Folksmen that are much faster for the forest? And now they're pushing frontally into archers. That's a little bit of a mismanagement, I think, from the Ukrainian side. But they managed to push more and more heavy units through the forest that will try to deny the healing zone. But is it even going to be enough? Is denying the healing zone enough here to take E? Again, I don't think so. The Ukrainians simply do not have enough forces over here. They sent their units from the city onto sea to start contesting it, but the Russians also seem to be in numbers advantage over here. They do have their healing zone very close over here, but so do the Ukrainians here in the city. And they leave A open for Russian infantry to make it in. Swords are not that big of a problem, but if the pikes make it on top of there, that is going to be quite problematic. The swords quite skillfully block off the Ukrainian swords. They try to push through, but they will suffer huge penalties for trying to do that, and they're being quite skillfully held back. The pikemen need to position themselves a little bit better to stop those glaives. Some of them have been deployed the wrong way around, some of them the right way around, because unit coherency is a meme. And well, either way, either case, those pikes are miming quite heavily on those glaives as they have been cut down extremely fast. I'm surprised that wasn't nuke damage. But with only 9 soldiers left alive in the unit, they need to retreat. And now the pikes will just spin to win, turn around. They have been attacked from behind, yes. Does it matter? No. They'll just spin and they will cut down those swords as well. So the Russians may try to get a back. I think it is a very rare possibility at the moment, as the Ukrainians don't have really that many units over here. Glaives are going to heal, but that's only 1 unit, doesn't bring any units back, as they're still trying to contest C. Well, they are contesting C, so there's that. The repeating crossbows are doing there some nice work. The Russian repeating crossbows have been defeated in a duel, but I mean, the Russians are launching a backup attempt at D, but D is locked, not until they get A. So it seems that they're very confident they will get A anytime soon, but the Ukrainians still haven't said their last word. Although those glaives, are they up for a repeat of what happened last time against those spikes? The spikes are level 1 from that previous engagement. Spears are inside, those are Leonidas, so hold the line available most likely, maybe have already been used. But once it goes down below 10 soldiers, it's not going to be good. Now the Ukrainians are returning to the healing zone inside the city, but are being pursued by the dogs, and those folksmen will also be ready to intercept. But Ukrainian cavalry, triple cavalry spawns in. A almost being captured. I mean, it is already being captured. We'll see if that cavalry can make it through. Just charge in frontally into, or not, just walk into them frontally. Whatever the case, I don't think it will end well for the cavalry, but all it just does is buying time for the other units to go around. But those units will be able to be blocked by those swordsmen. But as the cavalry spreads out, this entry should be free to go. Even if the dogs block it, well, they can't really block it. The cavalry will just run straight for the dogs. Cavalry also finds a little bit of an opening over here, can try attacking those pikemen from behind. And A should be still under control of the Ukrainians as they spawn another player over here. So the city should stay under control of the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians still regrouping here around their base, but as they were forced by the Russian aggression to send more and more, even more players spawning inside the city, the Russians, they're actually good at math. They know that 2 + 2 = 4. And they figure out, hey, if the Ukrainians spawned so many units inside the city, that must mean their base doesn't really have that many units protecting it. So they rush forward from E, as they were quite bored over here, waiting for the Ukrainians to attack. Didn't really happen. They saw the captured watchtower, so now they're pushing forward, and those are folksmen. That is not going to end well for them once they eat that volley of arrows in their backs. The archers level up to add insult to injury, as their cavalry just holds them in there. And now that watchtower is going to flip in the Russian favor, most likely anytime soon. There we go. The spearmen may say something else about it though, so it will be flipped back to the Ukrainians, but Ukrainians are quite confidently pushing in here. They have XP advantage for the archers. They also have the infantry push advantage ever so slightly, but that is not really going to matter. But they do have cavalry pressure over here. There's already launching a charge against the archers. The archers, do they see that? Do they not see that? Either way, they ate quite a lot of the charge, so range load isn't even going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to matter. Now the archers are pinned down. Perfect positioning, so really good work there between the archers and cavalry, capitalizing all the opportunities given and worked out by their teammates. Ukrainians still quite desperately trying to hold on to A. The Russians still in no position of a healing zone over here, but they do have quite close provided by C. So even though the Ukrainians have a little bit closer their healing zone, it is not that big of a difference, but then again still is. So now they are actually regaining control over on A ever so slightly after respawning so many units, but their base is being quite heavily pressured. I don't really see Russians capping the base, not just yet at the very least, but they are definitely getting a lot of advantages over here as the archers are able to turn all these engagements in the Russian favor as they are not being pressured by the Ukrainian cavalry that is occupied here in keeping the city alive. And we'll try to find a charge onto the repeating crossbows, but that is going to be definitely extremely hard as dogs and pikes are all around them. The repeating crossbows from the Ukrainian team are focusing on the pikes, doing quite a lot of damage. Can the Russian repeating crossbows respond after the clips have been emptied by the Ukrainians? That's what they do. The Ukrainians try to dodge some of it. Cavalry still making it around. But how many cavalries are actually there alive for the Ukrainians? All of 3 of them. But where are they? There's one over here. They were contesting C for a while, I think, but now they've seen that everything is, I mean, it's being protected by spears and pikes. So they're going to get on top of E, which would be a nice attempt at a back cap, but as the Russians are just going back and forth between the healing zone, it's no problem for them to just put some units on top of it as they pass by and prevent any sort of backcapping. So Russians are going back to heal on E, Ukrainians going back to heal up and respawn behind their base, and they'll try to launch another attack, but every single attack again and again will be weaker and weaker because the advantage, XP advantage on the Russian side is growing with every attempt. And the Russians are now quite heavily pushing out the Ukrainians with their pikes, using them very nicely. Already rank 3 on their pikes. They have fed on those glaives and now they're pretty fat on experience. But the cavalry, as it failed to achieve anything on C and E, no backups possible. It is a tournament after all. The teams aren't really going to let that happen. So cavalry is trying to find a recharge over here, probably walking on some caltrops. Yep, there's one patch of caltrops, but everybody is very in solidarity slowed down by them, making sure all is fair and the unit keeps coherent. After all, that is the most important thing in Total War Arena. The units must stay in formation. So the Ukrainians are pushing from all sides into A. That is, well, not controlled by Russians, but it is controlled by their units, sort of. Cavalry very nicely punching through the dogs over here to get on top of the repeating crossbows, prevent them from shooting. The infantry should push through to them as well. That's what's happening. And the Russian attempt on denying the healing zone inside the city is slowly failing as the Ukrainians heal up and respawn their forces over there. So they should still keep control of the city, and instead of trying to push towards E, I mean they're sort of trying to utilize the forest over here very nicely actually. For some reason retreating back to the base, recalling, maybe to bring up a unit that was lost, or no, not really. Just to regroup them maybe and open these arches for more cavalry pressure, because why not? Why not? That is some questionable movements, and now those archers are caught out in the open. The cavalry is just going to numb on them together with the support of their archers. So that is going to be Russian team making it closer and closer to the Ukrainian base. And now they're really close, and sooner or later they will be able to deny the healing zone if Ukrainians made any further mistakes. The watchtower is going to flip for the Russian favor as well, so the Russians don't see everything that's happening in the area. And the Ukrainians were sort of pushing towards C, but that quickly disappeared as they now retreat, trying to consolidate their forces around their own base, trying to prevent the Russians from capturing it. But Russians don't really need to do that. They're very well ahead, over 1,000 points. The Ukrainians have regained the control over A. So the only logical thing they have left to do is really push towards the Russian base. But Russians, again, they're good at math. They can add 2 + 2. They're not only thinking about how they win the battle, they also are thinking how the enemy could win the battle and how in turn they would lose, right? And they also win by not losing. So there we go. They have recalled a shit ton of units. They're not taking any chances. They know they've lost at the city. They know that most likely Ukrainians are pushing through, and Ukrainians didn't even heal their units. So some of them they did, some of them they didn't. And this is not definitely a coherent push, as they're just desperate trying to make it as quickly as possible inside the Russian base, trying to catch them off guard. But Russians are simply too smart for that. They know 2 + 2 = 4 again, and they simply react in time. They calculate what the enemy team is going to do, and as they sacrifice the push over here. So the Ukrainians, as they have also respawned hugely inside their base, might now try to push to E. Those that are trying to push the base should realize that is really not going to happen, and they can either retreat to the city or recall back to the base and try to solidify the push onto E. The cavalry from the Ukrainians is trying to maybe flank C, but there's really nothing to provide flanks for, so they should really go to E and try to capitalize on that. If the cavalry of Ukrainians arrive over here, it should have really easy time catching these archers, providing flanks, war cries and whatnot, and Ukrainians should be able to recap E. But that isn't happening. Instead they are fighting spears on top of C. Can they rout them? No, they can't. Reflag plus war cry is not enough when double pay is present and provides 10 morale. Foxmen also arrive. No flank possible to apply further, and that is not going to rout, although now double pay is going to be gone, so it should rout, and even a supporting flank is not going to be enough, but the Foxmen are enough, and as you would also need to flank and rout the Foxmen. And as the Ukrainian infantry arrives, that may very well be possible, but the Russians also have their own reinforcements pouring out of their own base. And cavalry, Scipio cavalry, will be able to make it on to C, and will be able to prevent any back captures possible. The Ukrainian infantry is going to make it. They will be able to contest it, but that will be just it. There's really no way they're going to capture. All they can really do is try to hold on to A, but that isn't looking too good either, as they have only 1 unit of infantry left on the right side of the street on the buildings, as the rest is being just pushed out and held away by pikes. Repeating crossbows being chased by cavalry, so anything tries to heal or respawn over here, nothing can really respawn because everybody's alive, but it would be stopped by that cavalry nonetheless. So really the only hopes for Ukrainians is trying to take E, rushing to B, rushing base, or rushing from E, trying to capitalize on the momentum they would gather from that. E is being flipped, but it is going to be contested by the Russians. They still have the healing zone over here. This is going to be denied by the Foxmen, but nobody really tries to even use it at the moment. And the archers, They have been feeding on the Volksmen also the entire battle, attacking the base, and they are rank 3, dealing a lot of damage to any unsuspecting rank 1 or rank 2 infantry. The Ukrainian archers are emerging as well, but they have no vision on the archers inside the tall grass. They have no health to contest, they have cavalry on their tail. So the Ukrainian attack onto E is going to fail as well. Now the Russian archers make it close, use snipe or strain or whatever the tier 6 archers have. I cannot even click that, I can click those. It's strain, not snipe. There we go, snipe is in tier 7. Yep, and the Russians took A back, as was kind of obvious, and now they're rushing D, as all the units, almost all the units, have been wiped out for the Ukrainians. And even being wiped out would be preferential, because then you can heal, or rather, you can respawn with full health, like this player did. But that is not going to matter anyway. The pikes and the dogs, well, they're just handless, they don't have the dogs must have died, or they're unleashed onto sea. But either way, pikes are enough, they're going to hold the infantry back. The Russians did capitalize on their momentum, and after taking A, after applying the Ukrainians over there, they are also taking D essentially for free. And as the victory music starts playing, as I hear, Russians control all 5 points, only one of them is being contested. That is going to be a very convincing victory for the Russian team. Very convincing, not only in this battle, but in the entire tournament. Being handed the only loss, one battle loss, not even one match. It was a tie between them and China. I think it was Alpis Graya that they lost on to the Chinese team. So props for the Chinese team as well. Chinese team, to sum up the tournament. Russians, first place obviously. Ukrainians, they might have lost here, but they have also beaten literally everybody else. With everybody else they had 2-0 victories. And the only losses they suffered were to the Russian team. But they also went 0-5 to the Russians. The third place goes to the Chinese team. I think out of the group stage, I don't actually remember. They might have been 4th and the Poland was 3rd. Yeah, I actually don't have it in front of my eyes anymore. If I can find it though. Oh, there it is. Yes, Poland was 3rd out of the group stage, with 1 more point than the Chinese team had. The China barely got out, but then in the semi-final, rather in the 3rd place match, China did beat Poland 2-0. So China got the bronze medal, 3rd place. Poland dropped to 4th place in the playoff stage. And out of the group stage, Spain got the 5th place with 4 points. And France, sadly, 6th place, 0 wins, 0 ties, only 5 losses. They were close a few times, but every single time they just failed in the last second. Sometimes they just didn't win straight up. But yeah, that was a really good tournament. Huge props to Wargame Institute for organizing it, Netis for supporting it. And well, I'll see you in hopefully more Total War Arena tournaments in the future, on this channel or anywhere else. In the meantime, while you wait for that to happen, you can help us bring the War Arena back to the West. And until then, I'll see you on Arena's Battlefields, Commanders.